Yeah, I'm Paul Beale. Um, I am a retired teacher of drama and English, and I've been connected with Northern Stage since it almost since it opened. And I came here on work experience when I was in the sixth form at school, when it first opened, and I've been coming back ever since.
What do you know about the history of Northern Stage?
Um, well, probably quite a lot. As I say, I sort of came here in, I think it might have been 1972 when I was in the sixth form at school, and I I was there, I think, sort of when the first directors were here, really. I'd sort of seen, I think I'd seen, I mean, as it was then, Tyneweir and Education, Tyneweir Theatre Company, and I'd seen their education branch, which was called Stagecoach. I think they'd come into our school with a play about wrestling, I seem to remember. I was at St Bede's School in Manchester in County Durham, and I I was really interested in theatre anyway. Was deciding I was going to go to university and do probably English literature, but wanted to get involved in theatre. And so when I saw that, and then we had the chance to do some work experience, myself and another lad, we were lucky enough to get work experience here. Now, we lived out in Stanley in County Durham, and Lanchester in County Durham he was from, I think, and but we came here, and it was for like a sort of a week's residency. So we actually sort of came in, and it was such a magnificent experience, really, you know, for somebody who was interested in theatre anyway. We stayed in the halls of residence at Newcastle University for a week, and we would come in the morning, and I think the main directors then was a guy called Michael Bogdanov, who's become quite famous. I think he's dead now, and a guy called Ian Giles. And we would do workshops in the morning with them in some of the university buildings. And then in the afternoon, we'd come in and we'd watch them direct plays. And then in the evening, we'd actually go and see the plays, because they had a group of players in repertoire at the time. And so probably some of the very first plays they did, they had a bit of a permanent company then even. And so I saw them do Under Milk Wood, and it was a different play every night, which was amazing, you know, a different play. We watched it being rehearsed in the afternoon and saw it at night. And then Waiting for Godot, which I'd heard about and never seen before. And I remember now it had Geoffrey Hughes in it, who used to be sort of in Coronation Street in the royal family and stuff. So I remember him being in it specifically. And they did Sir Gawain in the Green Knight, and another one which probably escapes. I think they did Oh What a Lovely War, but it might have been later than that. But as I say, sort of like, I came to this building for the very first time, this new building as it was, and I still sort of love this, the fabric of the building. The bricks on the walls are the same colour, it's got the same smell to it, you know, and the same atmosphere has been twisted around, but I just developed my love for theatre from the very start. So I've been here from the start, and I went away for a little bit to university and came back and had children, and so I used to bring my children here to see Christmas shows in particular, and I used to bring them in just for a drink sometimes in the bar when they'd been over to the nanas, and then after that, I suppose like the third stage was that I was a teacher in a school in Newcastle and Kenton, and teaching drama. I used to bring classes here, groups of kids to see the plays here, especially when it was Alan Lydiard's ensemble, which was just an amazing time, I think, you know, for theatre in Newcastle. So yeah, and now I'm retired and I'm just coming to enjoy it. But sort of, yeah, so I've been coming here all my life, really.
Can you remember like any distinct differences, the way that it's changed over the years?
Yeah, there've been lots of changes, really, in the way it's, you know, and just in the way the companies have developed, and the way sort of the ethos of the place has developed. But as I say, sort of, I loved it when I used to bring my children in, and they used to come and see sort of I remember the Christmas shows, which when Alan Lydia, I was here, Neil Murray used to sort of direct them. He was a designer and director, and I used to sort of like introduce my kids to theatre by doing that, and then sort of when I was a teacher, coming in to see the ensemble, as I say, that was just a really exciting time, because I mean, if you remember, I don't know sort of if you've been told this already, but sort of Alan Lydia just kept the same actors, as it were, for on long contracts, and they used to develop plays together. And I think that was, I mean, not to disparage anything that's gone since, but I think that was like the golden time for this theatre, because they produced absolutely world-class things, like they did the Orwell trilogy, which was did 1984, Animal Farm, Homage to Catalonia, and Animal Farm just kept going and going. I mean, I know Alan still, which is good. I've been down to Leeds fairly recently to see him. He's working at Leeds Playhouse now, and he's got a group called the Performance Ensemble, which is or the Performance Group, which is theatre, which is old people basically. So that was good for me. But sort of was he has actors who I think, and just ordinary people who are 60 years old and over, sort of doing stuff down there at the moment. I've told him to bring it up here, but he hasn't yet. But as I say, sort of Animal Farm was just an incredible piece of theatre, and it kept going, I think, for about 12 years. I think it started in about 1984 and just like toured the world, you know. And it was just theatre that was exciting to me. It was a different type of theatre. It wasn't your normal sort of, you know, go to the theatre and, you know, go to the Theatre Royal and say, sort of, weren't the costumes nice and wasn't it a nice play? It was sort of like, it hit you hard, it was visceral, it was physical, and he used so many different types of influence, really, you know, sort of Artaud, Brecht, that sort of thing, which was great for me when I was bringing students here, you know, my own students. And yeah, like I say, sort of, I loved that era. Since then, I'm really pleased. Well, sort of, it's a different era again now, but the last few years, I know it's been different, obviously, with COVID and everything, but before that, it was great to see the Christmas shows come back. They're in really spectacularly, like Mark Calvert sort of was, you know, who used to be with Alan in the ensemble, was directing those now, and you know, there were their plays which really use the theatre, the space that's here, which is incredible. I remember when I used to take my kids to the Christmas shows, they would open up, like they do now, like they can do now, sort of the whole auditorium, and what was stage 2 and stage 1 would merge, and you know, you could sort of put the seating in any sort of any way you wanted. So I remember they did a Christmas show called Grim Tales, which I think sort of had words by Carol Ann Duffy, but was like sort of in the gigantic space of stage 1 and stage 2 opened up, but in the round with the audience all around. And as I say, that's an exciting part of this theatre, that's so adaptable. And as I say, so like the recent, fairly recent now, Christmas shows that Mark did, like the Christmas Carol and the Alice in Wonderland and so on, did the same sort of thing, which I thought was really exciting. And now, of course, like sort of dawn of a new era, really, with Natalie here now. Just don't know what to expect yet, because, you know, it's just the beginning of things, and it's been a strange couple of years.
You kind of touched on it a little bit, but I was wondering whether your work experience was your first memory of Northern Stage, or whether you have another one that was the first memory of being here.
Well, that was the very first time I'd actually been to this theatre, and again, it was just sort of a bit mind-opening for me, because I had never been to the theatre very much before that. So my first experience with Northern Stage, as I say, was an introduction just to the way directors and actors work. As I say, in the morning we would come in to one of the university buildings, just the one across the road there, and Ian Giles, as I say, who was a director here, he would do workshops with you, and things that I didn't know were part of theatre, you know, sort of games and improvisations and devising stuff. Every morning would start off with Tai Chi, which I'd never heard of before in my life, you know, and so just every aspect of theatre was what I sort of was massively introduced to the very first time that I arrived here. I mean, I remember sort of Ian, who ended up, I went to Sheffield to university, and he ended up there as well, but he had this great phrase when you devising anything, he would just go, yeah, keep it in, you know, and just devising, just that idea of sort of, you know, making up plays and not having had a playwright write them became a big part of what I was into all my life. And I went on to, after university, I did form a theatre and education company in Sheffield with some friends for a couple of years before the money ran out, really, but that got me really excited by it. Like I say, sort of, I did see stuff in my school when it was the theatre education company for me, a Stagecoach, and I just realised then that theatre wasn't just something happening in a grand building, and it's a normal thing, you know. I realised you can just go there and didn't have to dress up for it or anything, and that's the informality of coming here and meeting people who were sort of very friendly and informal about it. Just sort of like, I suppose, sort of influenced my whole life, really.
Can I just ask a quick question? Slightly off topic, where did you go to university? Where did you go to university?
I went to London for a year, and then to Sheffield, just when the Crucible was opening, which, you know, I'd developed a love of theatre bars here and just hanging around theatres. So sort of that was ideal. The Crucible opened just as I arrived in Sheffield, I think, and yeah, loved it down there. Yeah, did a lot of stuff with the theatre group at Sheffield University, like I say, and then eventually, by pure fluke, came back to the Northeast because I wanted to do a PGCE, and I applied very late, and the only place that was doing a drama and English PGCE was Newcastle University. So I came back here, and then so I had a sort of missing few years with Northern Stage, but came back and you know, reacquainted myself with.
Have you got any other favourite memories from Northern Stage that you want to share?
Oh, there's so many, really. Yeah. Like in Alan's time, what I think I really remember is that sort of, besides the pieces that the ensemble were producing, he brought a lot of really cutting-edge, internationally famous sort of people here. So I saw Peter Brook's company, for example, who you know, sort of were based in Paris and Bouffes du Nord, but they came over and did a little season here. They did a play called The Man Who, which was based, I think, the Oliver Sacks' psychological sort of study, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. And I was just so excited to see Peter Brook, you know, and his group of actors there. I remember being a sort of real fan, and sort of they were in the bar after the show and going around getting all their autographs in the programme, but I was that sort of enthused by it. And Alan brought over the Marley Company from Russia, which was led by a man called Lev Dodin, I think, and that was just sort of, you know, was a group of Russian actors who lived together, you know, so married one another, sort of, and just sort of had been going for so long. And again, their sort of theatre was just so well fitted for this particular building because it had gigantic casts, maybe 50 on stage or something like that, I seem to remember. And that was fantastic. Robert Lepage from Canada came over and did, the first show he did was called Elsinore, which was a one-man show based on Hamlet, but he didn't realise it was a one-man show because what I really got from loads of things that are happening here was just the magic, the magic of theatre, the shock and awe of seeing something as spectacular as that, where it was one person, but by smoke and mirrors and tricks, it looked like there was a cast of many, and so sort of just the people who were brought across here to share with Newcastle, which was just a marvellous, exciting thing. But there's so many shows that I remember so well. Also the outreach work that used to be done here, still I presume is done, but of course again, sort of like the last 2 years have been difficult. But the people who were involved in that, Tony Harrington, Susan Mulholland, who would do wonders for the kids I brought here, and they would did sort of like really exciting things. I can't remember the life of me the name of this play we went to see, but we came as a group from school. We were put on a bus with blacked out windows, and it sort of took me and my students on a sort of magical mystery tour, which ended up somewhere along sort of Walker or Wall's End in the shipyards, in this sort of big open factory space, which had it was like a promenade performance where you saw sort of so many different things. There was a big green field. There was a sort of little lake that you could sort of send you could write on little boats and send your wishes across it. And, introducing kids to theatre like that, which is not conventional in any shape or form, was one of the things I really got out of here. Yeah.
Are there any challenges that you faced being at Northern Stage?
Any challenges I faced? I really don't think so. I've been sort of just so in love with the place since I first came. Nothing that I've really sort of ever found anything to criticise. Obviously, standard of productions, some have been absolutely astoundingly brilliant, and some have, there's always the odd mediocre one that you sort of don't like very much, but that's not a challenge. That's just theatre. That's the way life is. No challenges really.
So why do you think Northern Stage is important to the city and to the region?
I think it's vital. It's so important. I mean, the fact that it's established here, that it's in the heart of the city, that it has done and will do, I'm sure, lots and lots of work with different parts of the community. And I think that's a really, really sort of important thing now, that we don't just expect people to come to the theatre, go out and see people in their communities, get people, as I say, my children and my students would have sort of experienced, which is, there's an exciting world of imagination and magic there, which it can really open your eyes to not just, isn't theatre entertaining, but also which addresses real issues and entertains at the same time and broadens your imagination and sort of, releases you. So, I mean, you're asking, talking to the converted here, as much as sort of I've loved theatre all my life, and it was just great to, introduce so many people myself, to this wonderful building and the lovely people who've worked here. It's great.
That's so good. What challenge would you set Northern Stage for the next 50 years?
For the next 50 years? Gosh, you're asking now. Nothing I'm going to say the 50 years, but as I say, we are in a totally different sort of environment, socially, and in all sort of ways. than we were when I first started coming here. And obviously there's so many sort of political, with small p in inverted commas, sort of issues to address. But I mean, that is what we've been doing, or what's been happening in Northern Stage for the last 50 years, in a way, sort of just getting people, more and more people, sort of into the theatre, and confronting them with. So sometimes theatre hasn't got to be. It hasn't got to be. I don't know. Anodyne. It's got to be sort of. It's got to be like, in a way, theatre of anger and theatre of cruelty, and sort of address big issues, and sort of let sort of people sort of maybe sort of come in and use the theatre more. As I said, going out to communities, going out to different areas, places where just people don't traditionally go to the theatre, go out to them, but also bring them in here and let them maybe sort of, have a go at creating stuff as well. I think sort of more and more participation, sort of breaking down that wall between, they are actors and they are directors and they are part of a theatrical community, which has always been sort of one of my mantras, just sort of, try to introduce people to the magic and the possibilities, I think, of theatre.
Can you think of any specific actors that you've seen on the stage over the years that stand out, that you've enjoyed or were struck by?
Yeah, many really. Like I say, the very first actor I saw that I knew here was Jeff Hughes, who was a lovely man. I came to meet him a few times after that, because he was very much into folk music like I was. He used to go to a festival that I went to, but he was. It was amazing to see him, because I'd already seen him on television, and sort of that was quite exciting for me as a 17-year-old. I saw my first Hamlet here, which was Jack Shepherd, who's done quite a lot of television and sort of done a lot of work. So there's some marvellous work by Jane Arnfield, who is last thing I know, but it's a few years since I've known. She was working at the Northumbria University, but she's a marvellous actor, and she did this one-woman show called Geneva, which was about mountaineering, and had a song by the Carpenters, and it was a weird thing. But I've always really enjoyed her performances. When you went into that, you went into the theatre by a different route, and ended up sitting on the stage, looking out into the auditorium and seeing her abseil down from the roof, and that performance. And she ended up on a floor which had 750 light bulbs on it. I remember it was just a visual treat, and a treat to watch her acting. So that was a marvellous performance. And then sort of, I suppose, there was the time when there was just the local sort of actors we still all know and love on the television, really, who performed here quite a lot. Robson Green, Denise Welsh. There was a period when they were appearing here a lot, and in sort of northeast-based plays like A Nightingale Sang in Eldon Square, and Close the Coalhouse Door, maybe things like that. But their performance as well. I remember Mike Elliott, who was a comedian, Val McLean, who worked here for a while, but. There've always been some marvellous performances here.
Did you ever see David Whittaker?
David Whittaker, yeah, sort of. So he was in A Nightingale Sang in Eldon Square with Denise Welsh and a few of the, I can't remember the other people who were in that, but yeah, Dave Whittaker, who sadly died fairly recently, didn't he? I used to see him more at live theatre, but yeah, I think he played the father in Nightingale Sang, and probably other things that I saw here. Yeah.
Any other questions from now?
No, not from me.
I did have one that's gone.
Oh, occupation. Should I ask about the occupation?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you know anything about the occupation at Malvern Stage? Was it the 70s?
Sorry, can you say it again?
Oh, sorry.
The occupation in 1977, do you know anything about that?
The occupation?
Yeah.
No, don't know anything about that.
Oh, great. Well, when you come to see our film, you will know about it.
Right. Like I say, I would have been away then.
Oh yeah.
Probably. I would have been a student in Sheffield then. So I lost touch a little bit with the
What about
place.
Sting? Did you ever see Sting play, his band play here or anything like that?
The only time I've seen Sting here is when the big ship, fairly recently, when Owen Campbell took the big ship, which had sort of sailed into New York and sort of hadn't done great on Broadway, but I remember Owen sort of like almost rewrote that and got that up here, which I thought was marvellous. But I've never seen Sting perform, you know, in a band or with the Police or anything. Much as I love music, you know.
Well, he was playing in the big band here in 1974, so he did a lot of stuff. Can you tell us about the experience when they came into your school?
Yeah, well, we were lucky that we had quite a good drama teacher who sort of did bring theatre into school. The theatre and education company from Tyne-Wear Theatre was called Stagecoach, and I don't remember a lot about the play that they did, but I remember watching it in a gym at school. It was about wrestling, I'm sure, and what got me about it was the fact that it was theatre, yeah. I wasn't used to going to theatre anyway, as I said, but it was very different to what I thought it might be, because like the essence, I suppose, of sort of community theatre and theatre and education now is sort of the performers could do all sorts of things. They could sing, they played instruments, which was unusual for me. Put songs interspersed in the play. I do remember. I'm not sure. Chris Bostock used to be in the theatre education company. I don't know if you've talked to him yet, or you're going to talk to him, but I think he might have been in that group. A lady, very young lady girl called Charlie Dorr, who's a folk singer now, had a hit with a song called Pilot of the Airways, which you keep hearing on the radio quite often. But I mean, she'll be in her 60s now, probably. But I remember sort of being smitten by her and her singing, guitar playing, and her looks, to be honest, as well. So sort of, that's what I remember, and thinking, oh yeah, sort of, this is something I want to do. You know, I would like to do that. I didn't know that people from schools in the northeast of England sort of actually became actors in a way, and that sort of made me think maybe it's possible. Coming here to some work experience made it seem a little bit more possible, and then so after university I did try it for a bit, and so that set my ambitions going. But
what year and how old were you, do you think, when you saw that first show in your school gym?
as I say, it might have been when I was 15 or 16, so 70, 71, something like that.